minutes of the meeting. Attendees will join in listening mode, and we ask that everyone display their names correctly. Attendees can click the raise hand button if they wish to speak. The chair can call on those who raise their hands in the order that they are raised. All questions should be directed through the chair. Please note that this meeting is being recorded. Please be aware that other people may be able to see you, and take care not to share screen your computer. Anything that you broadcast may be captured by the recorder. So I'd like to call to order the Nantucket Land Bank regular meeting of September 9th, 2005. We will convene an open session, and can we have an acceptance of the agenda? Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And we'll go into public comment and staff announcements.
Let's see. I do have a series of staff announcements. September is Nantucket Climate Change Awareness Month. And so along with that, tomorrow on September 10th, at Great Harbor Yacht Club is the 2025 Nantucket Climate Change Summit from 4:30 to 7 p.m. Liz and Dana will be presenting a poster on the Francis Street and Beach Improvement Project. So there will be land bank staff there. If you like joining, that would be great. The Nantucket Island Fair is this weekend. Land bank has a table at it. We would love to have any commissioners there. Please reach out if you're interested. And we will find the perfect time for you to be there. Actually, just let us know when you want to come, and that would be fantastic. We have the table staffed by staff, but it's great when commissioners drop by. It's from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. on Saturday the 13th and the 14th. We are going to be highlighting our agricultural land and farmers because it's kind of a county fair, so it makes sense, right? The Nantucket Land Bank Annual Cross Island Hike is Saturday, September 27th. Starts at 8 a.m. in Quidnet. And as per usual, we'll be hiking across the island and ending at Settlers Landing. Please let us know if you're interested as well in joining that, either as a volunteer or as a hiker, or all or part of it. Last but not least, the Race for Recovery is on September 28th at 9 a.m. This is a 5K and starts at Bartlett's Farm and runs through Smooth Hummocks. And so there's a kids free run or walk, and 1 mile walk and a 5K run. So those are my public announcements or staff announcements here.
So are we presenting at this thing at 4:30 to 7 or just the poster?
We have a poster this year.
Okay.
So we will have staff manning a poster, and there's usually a poster session where people can mingle and ask people questions.
Okay. And then Susan, where do I find the course for the Cross Island?
Oh, I can send it to you, but we're getting the booklet done. We should hopefully by the
Oh, okay. Thank
early
you.
next week.
Let me just double check. Okay.
Okay. So we'll move to agricultural management. We're gonna have a presentation by Martin Phelan, correct? And then we will open it to public comment after.
Yes, so I am going to promote Martin to panelist. Let's see. All right, this looks promising.
And bring it into.
And
Hello.
hello, Martin. Thank you for joining us tonight.
Yeah, it's good to see y'all. Let me just get the sharing set up here.
Tell me if you're able to share or if you, there we go.
Okay, perfect. So I'm gonna be going through just essentially.
Martin, can you hang on for 1 second?
Yep.
Change the, all right, can you options? Yes, can you say hello again? I've got some
yeah.
audio.
Hello, my name is Martin Fian, so I'm the Deer and Moose Project leader for Mass Wildlife. Am I coming through okay?
Yes, much
Okay.
better. Thank you.
Yep. So I'm going to be giving essentially an abbreviated version of a talk that I regularly give to ag organizations as they're trying to figure out kind of best options for addressing overabundant deer issues. And just so you guys have plenty of time to be able to ask questions, I've just abbreviated it a bit. But with that, if there's any like basic like deer biology questions, I think that we need to answer afterwards, so that way we have everyone on the same page. We could do it at that point. So first up, the primary reason why addressing deer damage is such a important thing from an ecological standpoint is because of their impact on ecosystems. When you have high deer abundance, they essentially end up overbrowsing all of the young seedlings and saplings, rare plants, etc., within the various ecosystems throughout the Northeast. And with that, you end up with an overwhelming loss of habitat. And this has pretty significant biological impacts on the other species within the environment, and long term leads to an overall loss of biodiversity. A great example of those kinds of impacts are with the impacts on bird species. Effectively, when you have that overbrowse, you lose a lot of the microhabitats that different bird species require. And one of the most significant pieces is you lose the high quality habitat areas for nesting. And many studies have found that overabundant deer lead to an overall loss of nesting success and declines across many species. The other big piece there is with agricultural impacts, where you have those direct economic impacts, as well as the loss of being able to have local sources of food, and being able to promote, the long-term sources of agriculture that are so critical as we try to think about, where our meals are coming from. And then Nantucket and Martha's Vineyard have sort of a unique situation where there's an additive impact with the impact of deer, particularly with beach erosion throughout the islands. All of the beach vegetation is so critical to being able to stabilize the coastlines when it comes to trying to slow the coastal erosion that you are also well aware of, that goes on in Nantucket, that is costing the island and many of the property owners millions to address. And you can find this all over Nantucket. I've spent a lot of time in many of the various properties throughout the island and beaches, and you can, in a short amount of time, be able to find a lot of these sites where you have bedding areas that have been denuded of vegetation, as well as finding deer trails throughout all these areas. And those really destabilize a lot of the vegetation. So when you have large storms, it really kind of accelerates and exacerbates the issues with coastal erosion that are so significant. The other factor here is that one of the natural behaviors of deer as a prey species is to have game trails that are at high overlook points to be able to see when a predator might be present. And so one of the areas where they do that around Nantucket is a lot of those coastal cliffside edges. And those trails, when you go along a lot of the cliffside edges, throughout the island, you'll see these spots where the deer have really beaten down trails, and those then act as cleave points. So as the cliffside edges start to destabilize, that then creates a point where the cliffside edges can accelerate that erosion. Now, across the entire state, how we actually manage deer and track their abundance is using a downing reconstruction model. So effectively, we collect harvest data from hunters that are out hunting deer, and that allows us to have an idea of how many deer essentially are around in each one of the zones. We then input all that data along with age structure and other biological parameters that we collect during the biological deer check week, which is the first week of the shotgun season. That allows us to then do this age reconstruction across each one of the 15 wildlife management zones across the state. The key part of these estimates, though, is that they're harvest-based. We're sampling the deer that are being taken via hunter harvest. And so these estimates are always floors, because they're only going to be essentially creating those estimates for areas that are open to hunting. Those areas that are closed to hunting are not being sampled, And those areas are not subject to that harvest-based mortality. And in most cases would have 2, if not 3 times as high of deer densities because they're not subject to that mortality, but are still subject to traditional things like predation. However, Nantucket doesn't even have that factor. So in many situations on Nantucket, you're going to have densities that get into the 3-4 times the actual estimates that we would have based on just the harvest alone. And statewide, we essentially have been having more and more deer harvested every year for decades now. We continue to regularly hit harvest records, and all of this is in the context of declining number of hunters. And if we took the right graph back to the 1990s, effectively, we've lost about 2/3 of the hunters in the state since the 1990s. And so we're in a situation now where we have to have hunters, a declining number of hunters, take more and more deer each year. And that's what they're doing because there are so many more deer available. But when you see these relationships with the increasing harvest, it's really effectively exponential when you factor in the declining number of hunters. Zooming this in into Eastern Mass, so these are our 4 highest abundant zones, and Nantucket is there at the top with the orange piece for wildlife management zone 14. And the increase in Nantucket in terms of deer abundance is far exceeding that of anywhere else in the state. And there's a number of factors in that, but certainly one of the biggest is you don't have the other sources of mortality with predation, but also just the difficulty of having hunters get to the island is a significant barrier to entry for that portion of harvest-based mortality. And even with all of that, we continue to have near record or record harvests in Nantucket. Last year or 2 seasons ago was a new record. And at this point, the actual number of deer that are being taken is now exceeding that even of the 2004 season when there was an added hunt in February that is sort of famous. But just from the regular seasons now, the deer harvest is now exceeding those years. And we expect it to continue to increase, even though we've actually seen an acceleration in the decline of hunters, particularly on Nantucket as well as Martha's Vineyard. Now, with all this, we effectively have 3 different programs available for farmers that go beyond just the regular hunting programs. So the first is the farmer landowner permit. And this one really wouldn't be all that appropriate for land bank. This is really designed for, and the eligibility for this is that the farmer and their immediate family must be domiciled on their property where they derive at least 50% of their income based on farming. With this, they are essentially eligible to be able to hunt at no cost, and they're able to get all the permits that you would get via regular hunting just without having to pay for that ability. The property must not be posted, and this is just done via regular application process. Next up is Chapter 131, Section 37. So this is actually a statutory right underneath the general laws. It predates our agency. And this is not hunting. It's a law that essentially protects the right of ag producers to be able to address wildlife damage, as long as it's not a protected species, while they're actively damaging their property. And so this is the route that has been used by some ag producers on island to be able to address damage in the past, or like on the cranberry bogs, things of the nature. And with Section 37, the actual animals must be actively damaging the property while they're having the removal. So they would have to be actually browsing on the given product while they were being lethally removed. Only the property owner, the domiciled family, or employees may conduct this lethal removal underneath Section 37. When this removal occurs, the Massachusetts Environmental Police, as well as Mass Wildlife, must both be notified within 24 hours. And then in the case of deer, they must be turned over within 24 hours to the Massachusetts Environmental Police. With Section 37, it is not a permit and there is no application. This is just a right that's afforded essentially to all residents of Massachusetts underneath the actual statute. With these existing options, they didn't quite meet all the needs of the state. And so last year, we developed the deer damage permit, which we've been increasingly using throughout the state. However, there have not to date been any issued on Nantucket. From the perspective of management, it's far preferred over Section 37 and gives a much more flexible option that can be really tailored to the individual property owner. In this case, it is once again a non-hunting option, and regular hunting regulations do not apply. It is issued entirely underneath the powers of the Division of Fisheries and Wildlife Director. It's a principles-based structure, which allows for customization. We really have goals that we'd like to see in those principles, but effectively the whole idea of the deer damage permit is the existing options aren't working, and so we didn't want to have this to be too rigid, and so we can really customize it and flex it to the individual situation. The structure for this is where we have a primary permittee and then sub-permittees, and we don't limit the number of sub-permittees that we add, but each one of those sub-permittees do have to be added directly to the deer damage permit. All of the deer that are removed under the DDP is for out of season. So we essentially run this from currently January 1st through September 26th, essentially up until the beginning of the youth season. So with this, almost all of the deer then have to be donated to Mass Wildlife's Hunter Share the Harvest program. And all antlers must be removed and submitted to Mass Wildlife, because again, this isn't hunting and we're not trying to promote, trophy hunting. So with that, those have to be removed and sent to us, because we don't want folks, sort of bragging about the idea of having bucks associated with this. All of the deer then are reported via our online reporting system, which eliminates the need to contact both Mass Wildlife and MEP. And then the permit parameters are then set based on consultations that I have with each one of the property owners. And essentially that includes all the rules that go with this, since regular regulations don't apply. We set what those requirements are based on what the state is comfortable with, as well as what the individual or the primary permittee is comfortable with. And so those include which properties are included, what are the valid dates, which days of the week is removal allowed, what are the shooting hours, whether it's just going to be daylight, is it going to allow overnight, those kinds of things, which implements are going to be allowed, and then what equipment can be used, as well as things like bait. There's really kind of any of those ideas can be integrated into the permit based on really the needs of the property owner. And then with all of that, as I highlighted, the deer from that program would go to our Share the Harvest program. And with the Share the Harvest program, it's really primarily focused on hunter harvested deer. So we now have nearly 20 processors across the state that we pay to process deer as part of Share the Harvest, where hunters can either do a whole deer donation or they can do a partial donation, where then we pay a portion of it if they donate certain amounts of venison to the program. But this is also the primary outlet then for all deer damage permits and as many of the Section 37 deer as we can. However, ultimately, the disposition of the deer when it comes to Section 37 is up to the environmental police. And Share the Harvest continues to expand. This is all the results from last year. However, like the processor map, for example, we've more than doubled our processors for this upcoming season. And this is something we're certainly working with several of the staff from Land Bank on trying to ensure that there's processors available for Nantucket. And that would be a precluding factor for the deer damage permit, because the deer must go to Share the Harvest. We can't issue a DDP until there's a processor available to receive them. So that's it for the presentation, and then I can answer kind of all the questions, but I just wanted to make sure we get through this briefly so I can answer all your questions with plenty of time.
Let's open it to the commission first, and then we can bring in the public.
Thank you so much, Martin. That was really helpful.
Does the commission have any questions?
I had a question, Martin. I'm a little confused. You said that the state pays a fee to the processor or to the hunters? How does that work?
Yeah, so we pay for that. With all the deer damage permits, we pay set rates that we negotiate with each one of the processors. I will say for Nantucket, whatever that program ends up looking like, it's going to be a little unique, just in terms of the costs associated with processing on the island. I strongly suspect are going to need to be subsidized in some route because they're going to exceed what we can necessarily do. But this entire program, in terms of Share the Harvest, is funded underneath our regular Pittman-Robertson Act funds with the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, as part of our deer management. And so that's why we focus where those processors are based on where there's high deer abundance. And it's really being able to try to promote having more deer taken in those areas from a deer management standpoint. But we pay that. So generally across the state, it's for deer damage permit, we also pay a 50% premium because it's out of season. So most of those deer we're paying between about $250 and about $300 a deer.
So you don't subsidize the processing plant. It's got to be already established, or?
Right. So we pay the processors for essentially the service, but we can't like set up a processor, so to speak.
You mentioned an extended hunting season. Can you give a little more detail about what that is involved?
So I guess if you're referring to the deer damage permit, those are always conducted outside of the deer season. So we would never have a deer damage permit issued for use with valid dates within a hunting season, because ultimately that should be the primary management action like taken on theirs is with the actual hunting season. I didn't mention here, but we will be having a new January season that was approved and promulgated in regulations in May. So that'll begin this coming January, and that's a full month of January primitive and archery season. And that essentially creates like an early season because you use the next year's license. And that'll be the full month of January.
My impression was that there was a separate hunting season for shotgun, that it would be out of the regular hunting season, that people would be invited to come over, that Nantucket would be one of the few places that would be open for deer hunting. Is that correct?
I mean, I guess I'm a little confused as to what you're referring to, but so we have the regular shotgun season, which is the 2 weeks following the Thanksgiving. Separate of that, we don't have a different shotgun season. With the January season, that is new. So that's only zones 13 and 14 for 2026, but that's primitive, like muzzle loaders and archery equipment. And that's for 2026, that's only zones 13 and 14, so Martha's Vineyard and Nantucket. However, we have a pending regulation that is likely to go in place for January 2027, which would also extend that to all of Eastern Mass. Now, for the deer damage permit, if that would be implemented, that would be outside the season, and that would be based on like what we would do with Land Bank under that consultation. But that isn't a hunting season, so hunters can't keep the deer; they must be donated, and that all of the actions around that's strictly deer removal. So we don't ever talk about it as hunting because it is not hunting in terms of regulations. It's strictly for deer removal and for that deer management action, but it is not a hunting season.
So is that a plan for Nantucket to have this deer damage season?
It's a permit.
Yeah,
It's
the
not a-
deer damage permit, that's effectively what we're discussing here with Land Bank is if Land Bank would want to go that route and have a deer damage permit with the Land Bank as the primary permittee and to have sub-permittees. As an agricultural entity, you certainly are eligible, and from the state's perspective, a lot of the value and like of the property itself really is that conservation impact value. So it's a little different than mainland properties that way. And we are having these discussions with other land trusts as well that are in consideration for these permits.
Yes.
Martin, Neil Patterson, one of the commissioners. I'm really encouraged that you have the vision to be so creative as to bring something like this forward. And it seems to cut through a lot of red tape. And I really compliment you on that. And I mean, it's a massive problem on Nantucket. I mean, the disease, we know we've got a fourth tick-borne disease, and
Yep.
I know deer are just one of those carriers, but I just like to thank you for being so proactive.
Thank you.
Open it to the public. Anybody have any questions for Martin? Do you have any more questions?
I don't have any more questions, but I certainly echo what Neil said. It's amazing how far along you guys have already, I thought this was just in the beginning stages, but you guys are really being proactive here.
Yeah, and I will say, in terms of the deer damage permit, we're only in the second summer of this because it took a little while to get through the legal piece last year. And on the mainland now, almost every day we have a deer that's getting donated from the farms that are participating, and it's really helped stabilize the share of the harvest for our distributors off season as well. Because one of the things, we have a lot of venison, that goes in during the hunting season from hunters. We've had more than 300 deer donated by hunters previously. But now we're having that out of season. So for the food insecurity side, they're also being able to stabilize their program throughout the entire year, while also having farmers be able to address their damage exactly when that damage is occurring. Because it's not usually occurring in October, November. It's happening June, July, and August when everything's growing. And so it's very encouraging to see what we're having this summer in terms of returns of farmers being able to get out there and address those deer damage needs right away.
So Martin, you said that it's customizable. Could you give an example of one that you have set up off island? As you were saying, it was stabilized, but just kind of a little bit of the details, like when they're allowed to take them, what mechanisms they're using. Just one example so we can get a feel of how a permit would look.
Yeah, I mean, the big parameters really are which implements they want to be comfortable with. So we have some properties where the property owner doesn't want to create any conflict with neighbors, so they restrict it to only bow and crossbow, for example. But sometimes we'll also have properties where they have tried using just those implements, trying to go kind of the low pressure route, and then they've determined that they need to expand that. So actually, I amended one of the permits yesterday for a farmer that contacted me after he had all of his sub-permittees out this summer, and the issue they kept finding was being able to essentially the deer would be just outside of shotgun range, because on large fields, it's hard to actually get them in that kind of range. And so then yesterday I amended the permit to have rifle, so that way they can address that. Another certainly one of the pieces that comes up in some places, people don't want to allow people to be able to remove any deer after dark, because the property owner wants to be able to control that from just property access, all those parameters. So some of them restrict it to daylight only, and then we have other property owners that actually really prefer the night because it reduces some of the conflict issues with neighbors, and being able to conduct that after nightfall. Plus, in many areas, deer are more nocturnal, so you can be more effective when they're going to actually be out in those open areas after nightfall. So it really, all of these are designed to be adaptable. And so as the property owner and the primary permittees are using them, if there are things where we need to modify them, we just modify the letter permit. When you are actually utilizing these permits, you have to have a copy of the letter permit on your person. You have to have a copy of the Mass Fish Hunt license along with the DDP tags with you. And then we issue metal seals. So all of those have to be on for every single individual. And so there's a lot of direct communication that has to happen between the primary permittee and all those sub-permittees to keep all that piece. So there's a lot of control. We also set every permit up where sort of the permittee and sub-permittee can have different restrictions. And so with you guys, that may not necessarily apply unless you were having employees, like having certain things you're able to do, but we could also even customize it where you have like certain groups have access to certain properties. Those kinds of things can all be kind of set. So what I will say with these in general is the only restriction right now that we're not bending on is that these are only for outside of the hunting season, and because we really want to encourage hunting as the primary mode of management. But outside of that, we can be really flexible with these to meet the needs of the property owner, because it's the whole idea here is that the regular options just aren't working, and so we can be flexible where needed.
Thank you for that. Neil, you have
Just a quick follow-up. So obviously on Nantucket, it's crucial to have a processing plant, whatever you want to call it.
Yep.
Can you help? Do your laws have any leeway in that, or is that totally separate?
Sorry, could you repeat the last part?
Yeah, is there a way you can cut through red tape on processing, or, I mean, not that I'm trying to make it unsafe, but
Yeah.
there are enormous amounts of laws on butchering and whatever.
So okay, that's a very good question. Most of those don't actually apply to game donation programs. Technically, underneath our program, we have full regulatory authority, and so we actually handle all of the inspections, all of those pieces. Now, we want to work with the Nantucket Board of Health and Public Health, and so I work very closely with Jericho on some of these issues on island, and we are trying to ensure that anything that would be set up on island would meet their expectations. But in terms of actual regulatory oversight, this falls underneath the section of the FDA Food Code that has an exemption specifically for game donation programs. And they operate in 48 out of 50 states now. Massachusetts, when we started ours, we were the 47th out of 50th state to create a game donation program. With that, there's really not that much red tape. So the only things that are required to actually have a setup, you have to have a walk-in cooler, and then you have to have a processing site that is either a commercial kitchen or the equivalent. So it has to meet the same requirements of non-permeable floor and tabletop surfaces. You have to be able to meet the temperature requirements, those things, but you don't have to have the setups of a regular slaughterhouse, which in general, you don't have to have that for custom slaughter. Anyways, there's two different levels of regulatory expectation there.
Thank you. That's very well answered.
okay. Anything else? Well, that was excellent and very informative. We really want to thank you and reiterate what Neil said, the work that you're doing to address these issues that can't be addressed with the regular laws and regulations. It seems like you found a great way to work that through. So I mean, what I'm also hearing is that the processing center is our main hurdle. And then beyond that, it would be working directly with land bank staff to bring to the commission a presentation as to what the details would look like. Is that my understanding?
Yes.
Okay. Great. Thank you.
Great presentation.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Martin. I really appreciate your time. And I guess we'll see you tomorrow night at Select Board because Martin is presenting there as well. How is your presentation going to differ at Select Board?
Yeah, so that one is really focused on the January season in particular. So we're going to go through the actual structure of that season, as well as kind of just the other deer management things we're doing on the island. So that one's really focused on the regular harvest-based management. And this was really focused more on the deer damage permit.
All right, great. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Great evening.
Have a good night.
That's smart dude.
Yeah. You hope you're a private school.
Probably not.
How do I?
Take it back.
You shouldn't have to do it.
Yeah, I expected a coat and tie and.
Oh.
I don't know.
Hmm?
Okay, So you're trying to get rid of,
There we go.
so moving on to regular business and the Nantucket Conservation Foundation milestone presentation, and we can go to the table.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming.
Real quick.
So tonight we have Cormac Collier, who is the Executive Director of the Nantucket Conservation Foundation, and is here to present on their strategic planning and where that has taken them.
Thank you, Rachel. Thank you so much for the invite, everyone. I had the pleasure of speaking with Christina and Neil earlier in the year about our project and our strategic planning, and also Alan came out to the site for one of our regular site tours that we're giving on a monthly basis. So it's a pleasure to be in front of all of you guys and before everybody that's online as well to talk about the Conservation Foundation's plans. With me tonight also is our senior leadership team. We're also here for the deer management discussion because I'm very interested in that as well. But we have Nick Larrabee, who is our Director of Land Management and third generation cranberry farmer. Aaron Beatty, who is our Vice President of Science and Stewardship. Danielle Odell, who is our newly promoted Director of Research and now on our senior leadership team. That's great. And then I think also online is Whitney Dayton Burnett, who is our Director of Advancement. We just wanted to all come here as a group to show you how invested we are in this process, but also show you all of our faces, primarily because you guys are our longest conservation partner. For the past 4 decades, we've worked together on so many different projects. We appreciate all your support and the work that you guys have done for the island of Nantucket, and we kind of wanted to show all full force to you today. So thank you. It's also been a pleasure to be working with Rachel since she's joined the land bank in her new role, to have her as a colleague and a partner, thought partner on many of the things that we work on. It's just been a treat. And then on behalf of the staff, I do have to give shout outs to Jeff in terms of what he's done, working with Nick and being a resource of expertise and experience with all of his land management and forestry skills, and having that available to our team as well. And then also with Emily Goldstein Murphy and the rest of your crew, and how she's worked with Danielle and the rest of our crew on some of the forest management and southern pine beetle work. So I'm really pleased where we're at in terms of how we're working together. I think there's so many more possibilities to come in terms of how we can support you and how you can support us. We are here today just to talk a little bit about our strategic planning process. Neil's given me a 5-minute limit. I've already used up probably 2 minutes. Hopefully he won't have the bell or the hook, but I'll be quick. I'll respect I definitely will respect your time, and I will not give you the full-blown spiel here. We'll give you the watered down talk. We embarked in a strategic planning process with the board, which is about approximately 24 trustees, also all of our advisors and emeritus, adding up to about 40 trustees, advisors, emeritus, and the entire staff was part of this process. We now have 25 year-round staff working for us, and they all took part in the process to really chart a course for the future of the foundation. And where we ended up was, after 2 years of working on it, in 2023, we came up with 5 main strategic priorities, 4 of which I'll go into detail. First and foremost, still committed to conservation acquisition on the island, very important. But with that conservation, similar to you guys, a strong commitment to stewardship of our natural resources. A couple of examples being our Windswept Wetland Restoration project that we just recently committed, the shellfish reef creation that we did in Pulpus Harbor, our sampling grasslands work, and then also the southern pine beetle and pitch pine forest management we do. We are committed to doing that further and reinvesting our time and energy to find other opportunities for us to beneficially treat our properties so that we advance biodiversity, restore ecosystems, and we share that with the community. The second is we lead by research. We lead our land management by research. It informs the tools, the strategies that we take going forward. So a reinvestment in that research and that research team We've grown to six, seven full-time year-round scientists with an extension of 4 to 5 seasonals, with also graduate students and other academic institutions working with us. That informs these restoration projects that I just described as well. Third is adding to that bench strength of research is expanding our partnerships and commitment to on-island institutions such as you guys. How can we be a resource for you? And then in turn, how can we strengthen our relationship for the protection of natural resources, other institutions on the island, and then also working with off-island institutions that will bring their expertise to allow us to gain their knowledge, their experiences as well, for future research and future restoration projects as well. We'll just get better as a community if we all work in a more united fashion. Then finally, similar to what you guys have already embarked on, is really pushing a platform of open access for our properties to allow the public to be more enriched through educational programming, through lectures, workshops, through on-site activities such as bike rides, some wellness series as well. I think it's so important to get people out there, enjoying the properties and reinvested in what the natural resources does for each and every one. So those are our 4 main priorities. And we came to a realization that to take those to the next level, we need to do 2 main things. We need 2 drivers that are really going to drive the strategic plan. First and foremost, similar to what everybody's facing, employee housing. We need to reinvest in the employee housing that we currently have and will have for existing staff going into the future. So we do have properties in Squam Farm, Squam Pond, that we actually made into year-round housing. It was just seasonal. We have Tuppence housing and just actually finished up a 6-bedroom modular building there this past May, which is fully staffed, fully housed with staff. And even that, we don't have enough housing. We have year-round employees that have been with us for decades and a decade, and they are facing all the same challenges that other people are facing on the island. So we are committed to investing in that. Secondly, to take that stewardship, to take that science, and to take that education to a next level, we need to reinvest in the infrastructure that supports the Conservation Foundation. We are housed in a very undersized building in a residential neighborhood up on 118 Cliff. Does not suit our needs whatsoever, does not suit the community needs either in terms of the need for additional laboratory spaces, classroom spaces, educational spaces that we can really enhance our relationships with the school system and the community at large. So what we did, we embarked on, after that 2023 plan, we embarked on a 2-year process of identifying where this infrastructure can go and where it's most suitable to do. We fast-tracked some of the housing in terms of reinvesting in some of the houses that I already told you, built in Tuppence. And then for the housing and the new Milestone Center, we looked at all properties available to us to meet certain criteria in terms of distance to abutters, sensitive natural resources, view sheds, water upgradient, downgradient water quality impacts, a whole amount of it. We also looked at operational efficiencies as well. And we came to the conclusion that the most logical space, an ideal space and beneficial space for the community would be in the Milestone Bogs. It is a previously disturbed area. This is a zoom out of the Milestone Bogs. It's Tom Nevers Road is on the left-hand side. On the bottom, you pass our 5th Milestone parking lot, which has the gorgeous view going over. And then you're heading into about 3 miles. We'll take you into Sconset. This is still an actively farmed bog. We farmed 30 acres. We had a great harvest last year, and we're looking for a great harvest this year to be available to the community. So we're really looking forward to that. And where we did hone in on our future center and housing is previously disturbed land that has been used by land management staff or agricultural, and it actually has pre-existing housing as well. So the next slide details the existence of that disturbed area in the south around a pre-existing house and the property around it, which does not necessarily have much conservation value whatsoever. It's rural farm species, plant species, not necessarily similar to the surrounding scrub oak ecosystem. And then to the north, you can see our land management building, 2 existing land management buildings, and how disturbed that spot is in terms of it meeting the criteria we were looking for future infrastructure. Next slide. This is the plan. We embarked on a planning process with a off-island and on-island architects and landscape designers that have a strong familiarity in nature-based infrastructure and building with nature in mind. And the NCF Center is going to be tucked on the hillside, away from the bogs. The views going out will be beneficial to the uses, but we were trying to, in our best ability, to really minimize the view of that building on the landscape. You won't be able to see it from Milestone Road. That was a critical factor of us. This is tucked in where the existing residence is, and that residence is now going to be moving to our new yellow housing area. We're also going to be doing some enhancement of the land management area to allow better efficiencies and operations there, and also create a new native plant propagation space, which is really going to elevate our existing game. For that, we've invested quite a lot of time and energy and personnel resources to have native plants available for our restoration projects. We want to build that up to the extent that the first goal is to have enough native plants for future projects, and then for you guys and other conservation partners to have for your projects as well. And then we'll have hopefully at large for the community as well. Going forward. So we have a strong 3 to 5 year business plan on that native plant propagation. Next one. This is a slide just showing you a little snapshot of how intent we are in terms of, one, not disturbing, minimizing our disturbance to the greatest extent possible, but also restoring this with these native plants that I was telling you about, and have a real vision in terms of working with the landscape in mind and having these native plant restoration areas as educational pieces for the community, so that they can learn more about the benefits of them and then also utilize it in their own landscaping as well. We also have a constructed wetland that is going to be part of our wastewater treatment. It will be the first of its kind on the island. It'll be essentially a tertiary system. You have primary Title V. Secondary would be an innovative alternative denitrous system that you see in the harbor watershed. This would also be, it's a recirculating sand filter where actually there's going to be a layer of plants that will allow for nutrient uptake as well, which is pretty exciting and will be a good demonstration for the community. That's the rendering of the west facade. It is 1 story. On the left-hand side is our ecological research laboratory facilities, which again, we want to be available for all of our partners. Water quality testing, soil sediment testing. If there's projects that you guys are working on that would help you in the future, we want to have the space available to you. We want to have the space available to the public and to the schools and all of our conservation groups as well. The middle is the education classroom and workshop space that we also want available to our conservation partners, but we also want it available to other nonprofit partners as well, including the schools, and entities such as Fairwinds, other entities that are in the social services that want to do a lecture or workshop. We want this available to them. We want this as a community asset and resource. That's a rendering of the backside facing the bogs. You can see the constructed wetland right there where the cursor is. A lot of the other vegetation surrounding it will be coming up and shielding that building over time, but we are trying to design it really with nature in mind. And then the outside is actually an education space. This is not designed to be a tourist attraction. This is not designed to be a stop on the map. We want this to be an educational facility. Going over to where our housing is going to be, this gives you a good understanding, really truly in terms of what the impact is right now. First and foremost was agriculture. And then for our cranberry operations, and then land management now, this is their hub, their centralized hub of operations. And it does incorporate some of our existing agricultural work as well. And we're going to be expanding the land management operations and also the housing here as well. Next and last slide is a concept plan of what we're working on here is we have limited housing. We're moving the blue housing, which is the existing residence up on the hill, down to here. And then we have three small houses to be built for existing staff. And you can see obviously the associated other infrastructure that's necessary for that. What is not shown here is also our exciting plans for the plant propagation area, and then some additional land management facilities that we hope to build throughout the years. Any questions?
Where's the access point from Milestone?
Same access point it is currently right now. So you go down the hill, past Tom Nevers Road on the right, you go down the hill, and there's dual access right there. Yes.
I have a couple of questions. Will you be doing water testing?
Yes, we plan to be doing water testing. Certainly, we want to invest in the equipment that would be available for our pond management work, and then hopefully work that the land council is doing, other stuff that you guys potentially will do, and then hopefully that the town does for nutrient management in the various ponds and saltwater ecosystems.
And a quick follow-up one. You have an existing house already. I think Nick lives there, right?
Yep.
Why would you move that if it's pre-existing? Would you just leave it there and put 3 or 4 others where you need them?
It's a great point. What we were trying to do is really minimize the disturbed space. And if we left the house there and also maximize the privacy of the house as well. And if we left that house and built more to the south, we'd have to disturb a lot more land. The facility itself wouldn't be conducive in the land management areas because that just wouldn't coincide with what we're trying to achieve.
What's the timeframe?
Timeframe is we're continuing to finalize our permitting process and construction design. We hope to be done with that in January and February. Go out to bid along that time, and depending on the bids, hopefully break ground in the latter half of 2026. We're still in a fairly significant fundraising campaign, which I'm sure you guys are aware of, and we're working with community members to help us reach our goals.
What's your target?
It's a total $40 million campaign. We've raised approaching 26 million.
You just started like a year ago.
We have just went live. We were in a silent phase and we just went live in May. We're pretty pleased where we're at.
Back to the Milestone access thing. So are you changing it? Are you hardscaping it, or are you?
The actual road is going to be an impervious gravel material similar to where it is now. We're probably going to have to smooth it out, but no different than smooth it out every fall or in spring. Normal maintenance. We want to make that low key. We have no intention of paving anything with asphalt. If we have to change any of the entranceway to make it more angular, that we'll be working on with the building department and fire department as they see fit.
So if I'm on your viewing Milestone where you pull off for the view overlooking the bog, you say you're tucking it into the hill. Is it directly below that?
Can you go back to that, Iowa?
Just make sure I've shared the screen you want. Is this?
The farthest out one.
Just put there. Yeah. But hang on, let me just make sure it's shared for the public. Just a second.
That's
Thank
fine.
you for your patience.
One of the interesting things as we've talked with a lot of people, the best way to understand what I'm saying is really getting out on the site. So we have been having once a month site visits with the community. We have another one scheduled for next Wednesday, the 17th at 1. And then we'll have subsequent ones thereafter. If you guys can't make any of those and you're interested in seeing the site, more than happy taking you. More than happy to. So that's the FISP Milestone overlook. And the primary point of the view shed is actually this way, going out to Sankaty Light. And this way is blocked by this set of high trees right here, and then these trees immediately right here. And you can't see the ridge line of the existing building right now. There may from here, I don't want to speak completely out of turn, there may be a little bit of the new ridge line that you could potentially see. We're not anticipating you're going to be able to see it from this, sorry. Look what I just did. There you go. This view shed, which we actually maintain for the public, this one we maintain as well. It's just a drive-by one, but that one you won't be able to see it as well. We were very sensitive to not have it in this area because we wanted to preserve that beautiful natural view along Milestone Road.
Admirable.
It's a simple story.
Those questions have come up before.
They have, and we're continuing to work with the Sconset community, other community members that we want to reassure them that we went through a lot of this process. And we're more than happy to talk further with any individuals that have concerns or comments about the project.
I've got to say, when I was up there with your tour of the property, I was very impressed in terms of the consciousness with which you've laid all the different facilities out and the minimal impact I think it'll have on this already used area. So I'm very excited about this.
Great, thank you.
Good luck with fundraising.
Thank you.
You're having pretty good luck.
Well, we're not done yet.
I really like
We got a lot of work to
the
go.
single story and set into.
Yeah.
Yes.
I think you've shown great forward.
I'm sure that you work with the staff, but I'm really excited that the collaboration between the different groups. Water testing is a huge expense for us and being able to do it on island and be able to share the resources. I mean, I'm sure that there'll be charges and, but everybody doing what they're good at is what's amazing.
Agreed.
So, thank you.
Great, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, thanks for the opportunity.
Thoughtful approach.
Not, no, we're done with your.
Come with you. Awesome, thanks, guys.
Thank you so much.
All right.
Just in case.
Just in case you want to give some.
That's not fundraising, that's not marketing material. I was gonna bring it, but no. This is
We'll take a couple of them.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I think
We'll go on to property management with the Sconset Trail naming discussion.
subliminal message of sleep last night.
Oh, really? Which one was the subliminal message?
Connector.
Okay. So we have brought back the Sconset Trail naming discussion and we have put just about everything on the table at this point. We have some things that, some people would say are bad suggestions and some people would say are good suggestions. I think Cedar Run was one that was suggested because there's a lot of cedar trees on the trail and it is close to, but not near Phillips Run. Sconset Connector is very logical. Water Tower Walk, it's near the water tower. Sconset Triangle because it's akin to the Bermuda Triangle and that everyone gets lost. And that's where the Rantum Scoot came from as well, because basically people go in there and they're not sure where they're going to end up, which is the idea of Rantum Scoot. So if none of these work for the commission, happy to table it again and come back with more ideas, but this is where we got to. So.
Now,
Discussion? Go ahead.
the foundation already has named trails in this. Is this trail different from, or is this part of the same trail system?
So let me the Maury Lane Trail. I'm going to stop sharing this for 1 second. Okay, let's see how much of a mess I can make of this. You get it?
Bookmark that.
I've had it, it's supposed to come up as a homepage and someone keeps switching.
Uh, So, let's see. The Maury Lane Trail, which I will share with our companions online in 1 second, leaves Maury Lane in Sconset through here, onto Sconset Trust property, and it does a loop here. It then continues on to,
Share.
yes, land bank property and town property. Now I want to share. And here we go. Now that we have the aerials. Okay, so it leaves Maury Lane, does a small loop in here, accesses Cannonberry actually in here. So there are a number of different offshoot trails, which is where you get the Bermuda Triangle for getting lost in here. And then cuts across this property here, again onto land bank property over here. This is actually co-owned by Land Bank the town. And then it meets up with a Conservation Foundation trail that loops back to the Milestone Road.
And then it crosses over the street to yet another
Yes,
series of trails.
if we zoom out, it crosses over to Sconset Trust Reddick Commons, and you can actually do a really cool loop, which goes through here, back around, and you can come back over to, actually, you can go all the way through here over to Maury Lane. So it's kind of a fantastic trail loop.
Sconset connector jumps out of mind. I mean,
it does connect the trust with the foundation and back to the trust again.
Mhm. Yes, it truly is a connector.
without beating ourselves up for another couple of meetings.
We've only been at this for 8 months.
I believe this is the third time we've looked at this. I'm quite happy with the Sconset
Are
connector.
you making a motion?
I'd make a motion to call the Sconset connector.
Okay, do we have a second?
A second.
Okay, now discussion. Alan, you have?
It's a fascinating set of trails. I've walked the whole thing and I did get lost in there at one point. Yes, I admit, where does this go? And all that sort of. Sconset connector sounds kind of, doesn't have any oomph to it, but, I would go for, I'll go for it. I mean,
I personally think it says what it does and it's not, I mean, it's a nice trail. Thank you very much, but it's not like a stunning trail that needs a oomph name.
Actually, it's pretty neat. I mean, it depends on where you go into it.
Yeah.
And to have that trail access in Sconset.
Oh,
really.
that's the amazing part.
Yeah, exactly. And then to be able to get over and go to by our golf course in the winter, we walk up to our golf course and then pick up the trail on the other side. Anyway.
So we have a motion and a second, and any more discussion? And how does everybody vote?
Aye.
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 Okay. We gave it that.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much. It's great to have a name. Fabulous.
Okay, moving on to long range objectives. Any update from the advisory committee?
Yes, so I'm going to provide a little bit of background on some of the different things that I've been working on and that we've been just discussing at the advisory committee. One of the things that we've been talking about is collaborations. So there's a couple different types of collaborations. Let me preface this by saying that the Land Bank has always been a very collaborative organization, right? So we've always been collaborating on different levels, but just to give you guys some ideas of current collaborations that are going on. Today, I hope everyone noticed that today was the legislative testimony on the Housing Bank bill in the Joint Committee on Revenue. So I participated in that and we very much hope that goes through. Unfortunately, it could be up to a year before we know. We're in the first year of a 2-year session. So we'll see where that goes from there, but it's something that I very I feel very strongly it would be fantastic if it went through. It's basically a 0.5% transfer fee, very similar to the land bank transfer fee. Tomorrow I am meeting with the DPW because we continue to explore collaborations between Park and Rec and the land bank. You know, we do have overlapping things that we do, basically. You know, they do a lot with fields. We've done fields before. So just seeing where there's opportunities for efficiencies, where there's opportunities for us to do things. The other thing that we're doing is the Climate Change Summit, as you heard earlier, which is, you know, being hosted by, I think, primarily the Nantucket Conservation Foundation and Linda Loring, the people who started it, and then really all organizations are involved. We're working on the smooth hummocks conservation restriction and hoping to be able to work and create a mitigation bank, which we can work with the town on. We are also meeting with EEA. So that's our overarching body. And I'm going to go up and meet with Kirk Gertner at EEA to just discuss where the land bank's at and introduce myself. I've never met him. And we have a couple specific questions for him, but mostly just to see, you know, he's worked for EEA for a very long time, and to see, I'd like to meet him and get information about what he thinks. So that's the primary, I think the primary things that we've been discussing at the advisory committee. The other things that we've talked about, which are a little bit off topic, is visibility. So we've been talking quite a bit about outreach and how we can increase our visibility on the island and the things that we do. I mean, one of the things is we do a lot of collaboration, but again, we don't necessarily always share these collaborations. So how do we get that messaging out there? And with that in mind, I am speaking this weekend to the non-voting taxpayers group on Saturday, 9/13. That will be a televised live meeting. And, or you can join at the trailer next.
Obviously not expecting regular people in the trailer.
And then the other thing is we have requested to attend Civic League meetings because we feel like that would be a great resource for the land bank to understand what's going on the island, and they will be getting back to us and we shall see what they say. So those are some of the different things that we're up to. And that's my update on the advisory committee.
So the one in the trailer,
Mhm.
are you going to tell them about our collaborations, or are you just there to watch and see?
Nope, I am on the agenda. I'm I've been asked to give a 15 to 20-minute presentation, and the topics that I was planning to cover are basically the history of the land bank, how it came about, how we're structured, some of the things we do. One of the questions that was asked specifically was, you know, land bank's relationship to property taxes. And so I was going to explore that as a topic. And I think by the time I talk about the different things that we do, and that will easily absorb 15 to 20 minutes, and then I'll be happy to answer any questions they have. Apparently there's about 15 people that will attend.
Hostile environment?
Let's go in with no. They're going to be pleased to see me, and we're going to have a fantastic conversation.
Very good.
So it's really educational. I'm happy that they asked.
I think it's very useful too to have the perspective of the non-voting taxpayers. The kind of people who do go to those meetings, I've been to some of them, not that particular one, but the one that the town does in the Athenaeum every year. They ask really interesting questions that don't occur in your own presentation.
Yeah, I think it's great.
Well, thank you. I think it just shows, you know, we're taking it seriously, and the fact that you're going to, whether it's hostile or not, you're more than willing to do it. And
And I think participating with the Civic League is a really good thing.
are they as hostile?
Yeah, so I hope we can get in with them. So Anyways, that's our update from the advisory committee. And what's next?
The next is transfer business.
We actually don't have any. There was a transfer report for the month in your packet, but we have no releases or anything. Next, meeting.
Like we said, very late meeting. Every time we tried to put something on the agenda, it didn't happen.
Except the non-transfers.
Thank you, John.
Could I make a motion to approve the minutes that were circulated?
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. And then we have the consent items.
Make a motion to accept the consent items.
All those in favor? Aye. Okay, so at this point, let me just sign this. Send this around. Okay, at this point, we are entering an executive session for the following purposes. Purpose 7, to approve executive session minutes. And purpose 6, to consider the purchase, exchange, lease, or value of real property. Discussions in open meeting may have a detrimental effect in the negotiating position of the land bank. We will not be reconvening in open session after executive session. I have a motion to go into executive session. Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
We'll now go into executive session.